What if I told you there's a company you've probably never heard of that is secretly, well, powering your entire world? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Aether Industries. They're a massive player in something called specialty chemicals. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see their invisible hand in pretty much everything, from your medicine to your car.
So think about it for a second. What is the one invisible thread that connects the medicine in your cabinet, the gasoline that fuels your car, and even the high-tech screen you're watching this on right now? I mean, what do they all have in common? The answer is actually way more fundamental than you might think.
Yep, the answer is specialty chemicals. Now, these are not the basic chemicals you remember from high school chemistry class. Not at all. Think of them more like a master chef's secret spices. You only add them in small amounts, but they are these custom-designed molecules that give a product its unique superpowers and, really, make all of modern innovation even possible. And Aether Industries? Well, they're one of the master chefs in this world.
Okay, so to really get how they've become so good at this, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to unpack their really unique business model. Then, we'll dive right into the numbers to see the proof in the pudding. After that, we'll look at this huge global shift that's acting like a massive tailwind for their growth. And finally, we'll check out their super ambitious plans for the future.
So what is their secret sauce? How do they do it? Well, Aether's success is really built on what they call their 3 business engines. And it's a pretty brilliant system that can take a chemical idea from just a tiny lab experiment all the way up to massive industrial-scale production.
Let's break down exactly how this works. Okay, so step 1 is something called CRAMS. That stands for Contract Research and Manufacturing Services. Think of this as their invention lab, where they team up with other companies to invent brand new chemical processes. Then, once they've totally perfected the recipe, they move on to step 2, contract manufacturing. Here, they basically become a dedicated factory, producing that chemical only for their client. And finally, step 3 is large-scale manufacturing. This is like their own in-house brand of specialty chemicals that they've developed and now sell to a whole bunch of different customers. And this isn't just theory, right? Here is a perfect example of this model in action. Aether's management was recently talking about a huge deal with a company called Milliken. After years of development back in the CRAMS invention lab, the product is now graduating to that next stage. This is their pipeline working exactly as planned. A project kicks off with R&D and then blossoms into a long-term, exclusive manufacturing deal. It's pretty cool. So this 3-engine model, it sounds great on paper, but does it actually, work in the real world? Well, the numbers, they tell a really powerful story. Let's take a look at their performance.
In the second quarter of their 2026 fiscal year, which, just a heads up, often runs on a different calendar than a regular year, Aether hit this massive milestone. For the very first time, contract and exclusive manufacturing became their #1 source of revenue, making up almost half of their total sales. This is a huge sign that their whole strategy of nurturing clients from research all the way to becoming long-term partners is paying off big time.
And they're not just a one-trick pony, not at all. While pharmaceuticals and agriculture are still super important, they are aggressively expanding into totally new areas. They've made huge progress in the oil and gas and material science sectors, which now account for a combined 40% of their business. This kind of strategic diversification makes them a much stronger and more resilient company.
And here's the number that really just jumps off the page: 70%. In the second quarter of their 2026 fiscal year, their EBITDA, which is just a great way to measure a company's core profitability, skyrocketed by an incredible 70% compared to the year before. I mean, that kind of explosive growth is a crystal clear sign of just how powerful and efficient their business model really is.
But Aether's amazing growth story, it isn't just about their own smart strategy. They're also riding a massive wave, a huge shift in the global manufacturing landscape. It's this powerful tailwind that's just propelling their business to whole new heights.
And Aether's own leadership has been really clear about this trend. They've pointed out that for innovators in Europe and the US, manufacturing these advanced chemicals at home has just gotten harder and harder. You've got stricter environmental rules and higher costs. It's making it almost impossible to compete. And that is why for so many of these companies, India is no longer just a good option. It's actually becoming the only viable one.
So what does this global shift actually mean for a company like Aether? Well, it means they are in the perfect place at the perfect time. As all these Western companies are desperately searching for trustworthy, high-tech manufacturing partners, Aether's all-in-one model, from research all the way to full-scale production, makes them an incredibly attractive choice. They're not just another supplier. They are becoming a vital link in the entire global innovation chain.
But here's the thing. Aether isn't just riding this wave. They're actively building a bigger boat. Their plans for the future are both incredibly ambitious and really concrete, designed to meet this growing demand head-on.
So here's a quick peek at their roadmap. First, they're building a brand new facility, Site 3+, which is going to be dedicated exclusively to that 10-year contract with Milliken. They're also bringing another huge plant, Site 5, online to keep their growth momentum going into 2027 and beyond. And they're strategically doubling down on the complex engineering needed for those demanding oil and gas and material science industries.
But maybe the most radical part of their whole vision for the future is how they define a strategic partnership. In a world that's all about short-term thinking, Aether is playing the long game. They are not interested in one-off projects or two-year contracts. No. As their management says, they are building relationships for the next 20 years, with the goal of being the go-to partner for a client's next 10 projects. That is a truly revolutionary way of doing business.
And that really brings us to our final question. In a world that is so often fixated on the next quarter's earnings report, Aether's making this incredibly bold bet on deep, 2-decade-long partnerships. So I'll leave you with this to think about. In our increasingly volatile world, is this kind of long-term vision the new blueprint that will separate the winners from the losers in the industrial landscape of the future?